My name is Shemaine, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today is Tuesday. It's Toxic Tuesday. And every Tuesday, I try to post something about the toxins in the air, soil, and water that you might not be thinking of that can cause you things like headaches, flu like symptoms. Nobody wants to get those. Upper respiratory problems, breathing problems, running noses, sore throat. I could go on and on. Today, I've got a guest I'm going to welcome in. Her name is Casey McCurry, and she has been exposed to toxic mold, but her family has in a way that you're not going to believe, and you're not going to want to miss this interview. So stick around. In just a minute, I'm going to bring her in. I'm going to spend just a moment welcoming everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you so much for your kind and positive words. And people are already popping into the chat now. We've got David from Colorado Springs and Brian from Central Ohio. I always love seeing where you're watching from. So please write that in the comment section. And also, guys, before I forget, if you just are popping on briefly, you can check out more about what happened to me if you don't know. My home that was once featured on MTV Cribs was contaminated with toxic mold. And my husband, who, yes, is rocker Ted Nugent, our son Rocco, and I all got very sick. And you can find out more about our story at killerhouse.org. And I've got some free information on there that might help you every day. The reason I'm doing this is every day I get messages from people just begging for help. And every situation is different. Wait till you hear Casey's story. You're not going to believe it. But one more reason why I want to continue to do this, why I wanted to put my documentary out there, and I'm also writing a companion book that's almost done. So thank you guys so much again for your kind and positive words. We've got Wayne here from Indiana and Michelle from the UK. Hey, Michelle, how are you? Now, here's something that I get asked often. Where did you live? Where was your home when it was contaminated with toxic mold? And did you see anything? Never saw anything. We lived in Michigan. Our home was in Michigan, but it doesn't matter if you're in a humid climate or if you're in a rainy location like the UK. Love the UK, by the way. Or if you're in a dry desert area. We're talking about the air quality between the walls of your home. So inside your house should be dry and not have a lot of perspiration on the walls, which, believe it or not, that's a big deal. In between the walls should not be sweating. There should be low humidity. But I am going to bring in Casey, and I'm going to let her tell you her story. Hey, Jalen from Texarkana. Hey, Barbara from Fort Worth. Hey, Roger from Tennessee. Hey, Mike is just saying blessings. Hey, Dennis from California. Hey, Debbie, how are you from Ontario, Canada? Thank you so much for being here from Ontario. All right, guys, I'm going to bring Casey in. Casey McCurry, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Casey, tell everybody in just a few minutes. Unfortunately, we're not going to go for an hour here, but maybe 15 minutes or so. But tell everybody a little bit about your story, and then I want to get into what's going on now and what I know what you're up to, but everybody else doesn't.
Yes. So our story is kind of odd because it really started in 2012 when we moved into military housing. Me and my husband had 3 small kids, and they were always sick. But being 23 years old and naive, I didn't know anything about mold. So I just thought it was completely normal for the entire family to be sick all the time because you had 3 kids under the age of 6. That's how it goes. But then we moved away and their health improved. Again, I thought, oh, they're getting older. It's not so bad. And then we actually moved back to the same base and we lived in the same neighborhood. And when the symptoms started again, like I started thinking, uh-oh, like what's going on? But then I started to visually see it. And so we moved out for remediation. The company that contracts with the military housing did the remediation, but because of not proper containment. When we moved back in, we got sicker. So a lot sicker. So we finally moved out about 6 months after that. But looking back to our first time there, all the symptoms were the same. So I contacted that tenant and she sent me pictures. It was everywhere. It was underneath the floors and we never knew. So our youngest son, who learned to crawl and have tummy time in that house, now is paralyzed on the right side of his body. And this is something that he went to his 3-month, 6-month, 9-month checkup and he was perfectly fine. And then he went back for his 12-month checkup and all of a sudden he wasn't fine anymore. And then around 2.5, he started having seizures and then he didn't have any while we were gone. And then when we moved back, he started having them again. Same neighborhood, same floor plan, same builder, same everything. And so with it being military housing, we had a big time finding help, finding who to go to, because it's a very gray area. So ever since then, I've kind of been trying to advocate for military housing as best as I can. But there's been little to no change since I stepped into the picture in like 2019.
Now, you said you've had a big time trying to find help, but you meant a hard time, difficult time?
Yes, like
Yeah.
it was awful. It was awful.
And let's talk for a minute, Casey, about your symptoms and your son's symptoms and how you guys are doing today.
So sure. So my son, like I said, he is blind in one eye. He is paralyzed on the right side of his body. He has epilepsy. He had failure to thrive. He lost that diagnosis. He has developmental delays, speech delays, just a lot of different developmental issues. And then I have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I've lost some vision. If you notice, one side of my face droops. That didn't used to happen. Fibromyalgia, which I know a lot of time is misdiagnosed, and I'm still trying to work through that. And so there's just been, I gained 70 pounds overnight, literally overnight, and my thyroid is completely destroyed. My TSH levels are almost 14. They're supposed to be like under 4.5, and that's on medicine. I had a total hysterectomy at 27. So I was the ability to have children was taken away. It's just, there's a lot. I tried to make a list the other night before going to Houston, and I was on my 3rd page of every line for our family. Our son lost his service dog. He wasn't even 5 years old yet. He passed away. And I think that is really when I was like, okay, this is enough. How much more can you take from us? And at that moment, it changed our lives forever. There's not a second that goes by that I don't think about it. There's not a day that goes by that I don't talk to somebody about it. And a lot of times people don't think about life after mold. That PTSD of walking through your house and seeing something on the ceiling and you like stop and gasp and realize that it's just a shadow. Or when it starts to rain and you start to panic, like, oh my goodness, let me go around and look at the ceiling everywhere.
Not only raining, but rain with wind.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't realize that water can get up under, if you've got aluminum siding on your home or any kind of siding, it can get in there between the walls. For the life of me, I don't understand why builders aren't held accountable for this. It breaks my heart to hear what you've been through, your family has been through. I know all too well this experience, and it's not a walk in the park. Obviously, and I understand what you're saying. Like, there's not a moment that goes by. Honestly, Casey, you and I are on another Mold Mom chat thread. We have other friends in common, and the thing that I want to extend to people, and it might seem difficult at the moment, but there is hope. And the hope is that people like you and me and so many other people who are kind of pioneers and going out there and saying, no, this is not right. military housing has to be better. And especially, here we are just getting over Memorial Day, celebrating and honoring the sacrifices that our brave men and women made and their families made so that we could be free. And yet we put them in housing conditions that cause them to be sick and cause their families to be sick. It's disgusting, and it's awful. I know you're fighting for this every single day. What are some of the ways that people can help you, what you're doing?
And I just want to say quickly before I answer that, there are two families or two active duty members, I should say. One that lived in my house before I did, and then another one that contacted me this last September that have been medically retired because of the conditions in their homes. And that's a really big problem when it comes to mission readiness. So the only thing that I can think, these advocacy groups have been to DC. They've talked to Congress. They've started the Tenant Bill of Rights, which it was supposed to give some teeth to, military families. It was supposed to give them ability to fight these companies, and it really hasn't done that. Now they have to provide work orders, but instead of the work orders actually telling what happened, it'll just say HVAC problem. What it doesn't say is if the HVAC leaked into the floor that caused mold and they had to do a remediation. It doesn't go into detail like that. And so they're really having trouble even holding them accountable after the Tenant Bill of Rights has come out. So really it's just I think the only thing that's going to change it is the public becoming aware of what's going on. Every couple of years, there's a news story about it, but then it kind of gets brushed off to the side.
It's like we people move on with their lives, and if it hasn't affected them, then they will continue to just follow the next squirrel or go down the next rabbit hole. And one of the things Robert brought up is, how about homeless veterans that are putting them first?
Oh yeah.
Why? I don't want to get too political here, but we just sent $40 billion to Ukraine when we can't take care of our own veterans. This is unbelievable and unfathomable, and people need to understand that this is a serious problem, a crisis, not just in the military housing that you were in, but we know so many other housing situations that the military are put in, and they try to say something and it's almost like, no, we're just going to paint over it. There's no problem here, nothing to see here.
The sad thing is that the same privatized companies that are responsible for military housing are the same privatized companies that are responsible for student housing in colleges. They're also the ones that are responsible for HUD or government housing, Section 8 housing, and senior living facilities. It's almost as if they are preying on the people that cannot defend themselves, whether it be because they can't speak up because of reprisal, or whether it's because they don't have the means or the funds to speak up. And they know that, and I feel like that they take advantage of that, and it's wrong. It really is wrong.
And you mentioned students in colleges. They put people in those buildings that are coming and going. So you might not notice it for a little while, but I've talked to way too many parents who have said, wow, they know that I have experience with toxic mold. And they said, wow, I'll tell you what, Arizona State University was one of them, that they had a one whole building that was, all the kids were sick. And we happened to, Ted knows the AG, the Attorney General there, and I contacted him right away, and he said, oh my gosh, I actually stayed in that dormitory. So we are starting to make progress. It seems like we're just dragging cement blocks behind us in the mud. But there is hope. We are making progress. The more people wake up, if you see something on your local news about this is happening to housing development in your town or military housing, reach out to them and find out how you can get involved. Casey, how can people get involved with what you're doing and follow you?
So they can follow me. My biggest platform, I guess, where I really advocate hard for military housing is through TikTok. And the handle is advocate like a mother on there.
Spell mother.
And so there's
Um,
some good stuff on there, or it's just Casey McCurry on Facebook or Instagram.
Casey, spell mother. Is it M-O or M-U-T-H-A?
It's M-U-T-H-A.
Advocate like a mother.
Yeah. And then I also have a Twitter as well. All of those are just under my regular name. But honestly, it's just bringing attention, tagging those individuals in your community that, or on Twitter, you can tag these congressmen, which is what I've done a couple of times. You can join some of the advocacy groups on Facebook. You can help donate to them, because a lot of times it's the advocacy groups that are paying for the testing in these houses.
Yeah.
Because the families can't afford to do it. It's absolutely crazy how these families are being treated, and you're looking at legacy enlistments. A son looks at his father, 10 years ago and says, I want to join the Army or the military like my dad did. Well, do you think that my kids are going to want to join the military after seeing what they've done to us? No, they're not. And that has been the case a lot of places, and it's really sad. It's just unfair that our spouses have to worry about their kids and their wives or their husbands while they're gone. And it just doesn't stop at the mold. It also, goes with reprisal and stuff happening behind the scenes when you do speak up. That's probably the worst part. It's either sit down and shut up, or speak up and then have to watch your back. And that's been the difficult part for us.
What an abomination. It's just despicable that, number one, that you and your family have had to go through this, but you're not the only one. There's almost everybody. I mean, I haven't talked to all of the military, obviously, but this comes up way too often, and something needs to be done. Jason is saying military has a lot to answer for: sanitary conditions for soldiers, both at home and while on deployment. So yeah, the only way that things are going to change is if everybody watching here can share this video, can help people like Casey and become an advocate, because things don't change. I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't have put together my documentary. I wouldn't have been talking about Toxic Tuesday, or really, Casey, I would not have been awake about other things in the world if this had not happened to me. But when I got sick and almost died about 18, 19 years ago, there was the only one before me that I knew of was Melinda Ballard. And if you haven't heard about that case, check it out, look it up, because her family passed away from all of this and from toxic mold. And she's the first one, kind of the pioneer, that started talking about this. But when doctors couldn't help me, I went to dozens of doctors. I went to an eye doctor, ear, nose, and throat doctor, all different types of doctors. I did all different types of alternative remedies. But when doctors couldn't help me, I had to become my own advocate. And that's what each of us has to do, don't you think?
I think so. And if it wasn't for fellow military spouses taking me by the hand and walking me through that fire that they set themselves on fire for the rest of us in the beginning, I don't know where I would be, because there wasn't anywhere else to turn to. Nobody knew how to help. It's the government. It's the military. Like, who's, and so it's, I have to be thankful for the people that came before me that laid that groundwork for us to come through, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop.
So I'm looking at this comment. What is toxic mold? And I'm not sure what the question is exactly, but do you want to describe that, Casey? What is toxic mold?
Oh man, it is.
Where do we start?
I have no clue where to start, and I'm not the most, knowledgeable on mold. I look back and I didn't think that mold could even make you sick until 2019. This is just something that's happened in the past couple of years for my family. But when I say that it can affect you from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, I'm not joking.
What
Like
were some of your symptoms personally?
so one of my worst symptoms is facial twitches, and it's situational. So it's not when I'm sitting up, but when I lay down, my whole face will kind of twitch to the side and it doesn't stop. Insomnia, lots of neurological issues. This facial droop right here that I have that looks like I've had a stroke.
I don't
see this.
I don't have my glasses on, Casey, but you look beautiful. I don't see it.
Well, thank you. But there is one side that kind of dips. For a while, they thought it could be MS, but they did do an MRI, and there are lesions. But right now, with the Hashimoto's acting up so bad, it's hard for them to tell unless they do an LP. So that's the next step. But then also, I got a cough in October of 2019, and I've still not lost that cough. And try going through COVID. This whole COVID with a cough, and you have to look at people and go, it's not COVID, it's mold every single time.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is that toxic mold affects everybody differently, depending on the type of mold. And there's thousands of different types of mold. But if you get Stachybotrys, you do a mold test, know the name Stachybotrys. You have Stachybotrys in your house, you might as well just get out. Don't look back, take nothing, and leave. Then get rid of your clothes. I'm not kidding. That's what we had to do. And it's no fun. In my book that I'm writing, I'm actually reading a proof of it right now. And it reminded me of the story that, I kind of wish that our house had caught on fire so that I could have seen it. Okay, there's no way I can go get anything. But I had to walk away from it just standing there.
And it looking normal.
And this was in 2002. And people were like, that can't be right. Are you sure? You're sure there's nothing that can be done? Trust me, there's nothing that can be done. When it got to the point where for us, it went through all the duct work, it had gone on too long, and it was the house itself was just not salvageable. But the most important thing that I lost, remember, this is 2002. We didn't have a lot of digital media. I lost all my son's baby pictures. And that was the big one for me. That was tough.
I think my dad's Bible was like the tip top for me because he's no longer here. So that's not something that can be replaced. So that was really, really, really difficult. And you're right. I compare mold to a fire all the time, except for, with fire, you have the fire. With mold, you have the mold. But then you also have the stuff that you can't see, the spores, the toxins that are almost like the smoke and water damage from the fire.
Right.
The sad part is that, you do have all of these people that step in to help whenever there is a fire. You have the American Red Cross, and you have all of these people that come together that really, put everything together for the family that just lost everything. But mold is so different because it's not visual. It's not something you can see. Like, they just lost everything that they had. But the devastation is just as bad as a fire.
And the problem is you have well-meaning people who may truly want to help, but are not educated on the topic. And like you said, I think they didn't remediate it properly. You've got to have an expert mold remediator, somebody who is licensed and understand what they're doing. And you've got to section off that room, that area, so that the mold spores, which are invisible to the human eye, one mold spore is 1/100th the size of human hair, and its natural defense mechanism is to propagate 1,000,000 times. So you can't see it, but if you don't clean it up right, and if you just wipe bleach on it, you're actually going to make the problem worse. I see Orel, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. I'm in Indiana, in mold as a single mom with 2 kids. We all have issues. I understand, trying to find my way to extreme mold avoidance. I'd love for you to chime in on this. I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can have extreme mold, because if you live in this world and you go to the grocery store, there's mold everywhere.
Or you go to a hotel in Houston.
Yes, I saw you.
Oh, it's
And
awful.
you can constantly be reinfected
Mhm.
and have multiple chemical sensitivity. So you could be infected to other things. You don't know what is actually causing your symptoms. So we will pray for you. Orel, I hope I have that right. And Casey, I want to thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. God bless you from the bottom of my heart and your family. I get updates from you about your son. I hope and pray that you and I, together with so many other people, can make the difference that the veterans especially need to have in their lives.
I don't know about you, Shemaine, but I've really figured out that in this journey of healing, I find that I heal better when I help heal other people. When I help other people, it makes me like almost it feels as if that part is healing me. So you take all of these people like you and a couple other people that we have in our little chat group, and you look at them, and these are all people that have been through the worst. They've lost everything that they've had. They've been sick. Their children have been sick. And you bring us all together, and all we can think about is helping other people.
Yes.
We're not even talking about ourselves anymore. We're talking about how we can help others in the future. And that to me is everything, honestly.
Well, Casey, you're giving a lot of people hope. And we're praying for you and your family. And let us know. You're going to come back here again, aren't you, soon?
Yes, absolutely. I will be in Austin in 2 weeks.
Great.
So, yep. And
Well,
so we'll definitely check in.
Much. Yes, we'll check in. We're on a text thread, so we check in all the time. But thank you again, Casey, so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shemaine.
All right, guys, everybody, please be sure to share this because it might be the thing. If you just have it on your Facebook page or you share this on Twitter with somebody, people really don't understand the gravity that this has. They might think, wow, I think there's a problem. I think we might have a mold problem too. I'm going to find out more about it. So this is really, your speaking out is helping a lot of other people.
I hope so. Even if it just helps one person, that is enough for everything that I do.
Exactly. All right, Casey, have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.